Welcome to our session today on stakeholder capitalism, building the future. We have a fantastic panel with us. We're going to start this session with the expert on stakeholder capitalism, the WEF chairman and founder, Klaus Schwab. Klaus has a new book out today on this subject that will launch our panel, and then we'll join in a broader discussion. Klaus, welcome.
Thank you very much, Edward. It's really a very important moment, not just because I'm publishing a book, but we are witnessing a mindset change. I think we are moving from the priority of short-term shareholder profit maximization to a world which is characterized much more by stakeholder responsibility. The COVID crisis has shown us that companies which were committed to the stakeholder concept have performed much better because they have invested into the long-term vitality of the company. So what we have to do now, and what is very important, is to walk the talk. And walking the talk means not just to talk about stakeholder capitalism, but also to establish a framework of metrics which allow everybody to see that a company is performing according to the ESG criteria. So the International Business Council of the World Economic Forum has undertaken the task, together with the 4 big audit companies, to develop such a comprehensive system which allows not only a reporting process where the companies can be really measured, but which allows also to see progress companies are making, similar to the financial reporting system. I feel this mindset change is essential if we want to move from a world which is just based on material objectives like GDP and so on, to a world which is much more conscious of the well-being of people. And I think the COVID crisis has shown us that we have to pay more attention to the well-being. And this means, and I come back, a change in the approach of business philosophy to move really to a large-scale stakeholder capitalism.
So this is a book you were writing. You had started writing before the pandemic. It's really a book you've been writing for 50 years. But you were working on this book. Then, as you write in the book, February of 2020 comes, and you had what you call an ACBC moment, realizing that everything was about to change. There was an after-COVID world and a before-COVID world that were going to be nothing alike. Can you talk about how the pandemic not just shifted your thinking on stakeholder capitalism, but the landscape that it operates in?
I think the notion of stakeholder capitalism is an old one. I wrote about it 50 years ago, and we should not forget that last year major change happened when the US Business Roundtable, which represents major companies in the United States, actually issued a statement embracing the stakeholder concept. Now, what has happened with the crisis, with the corona crisis, is showing us that people expect more from governments and business, not just material satisfaction, but security, for example, in terms of health services. But what we also have learned is that all those services related to cleaning up the environment, providing the necessary diversity inside companies and society, This cannot only undertaken by governments or by business alone or by civil society alone. We really need public-private cooperation. So the crisis has shown us we need a mindset change, and we need also to move from a society where business and governments have very separate tasks to a society where the two, together with civil society, work hand in hand.
How different do you think the book is, the final form of the book, versus where it was headed prior to that moment, that realization in February?
I think the big change is people are much more open today compared to a year ago, where we felt all being in a society which is well-doing and so on. Now they have noticed the fragility of global society.
So we went from crisis to extreme crisis in a way. Health crisis, economic crisis, inequality crisis, trust crisis, democracy crisis. And that has spurred this openness. So everybody went into panic mode. We all did around this time last year. Obviously, some companies fared extremely well in the pandemic, but of course, far more, particularly small businesses, have suffered terribly. How has that impacted not the philosophy of stakeholder capitalism, but the ability of companies across the spectrum to execute it?
You ask me? Yeah.
Yes. A question to you, and then we'll open to the group.
No, what we are seeing, frankly, is the companies now really engage. And I see it in terms of our different initiatives. The Forum has about 100 initiatives related to climate issues, related to creating jobs and so on. What we are seeing is that at least multinational big companies engage much more compared to a year ago. I think they have listened to the people who have great expectations today, expectations which means that they have to exercise stakeholder responsibility.
I guess I was really asking about the smaller companies that have suffered much more, and for whom survival minute by minute is such a focus right now. How are you seeing it? Is it playing out at all beyond big companies? I mean, for this to really grow, obviously it's got to go beyond the largest companies and include the way everybody thinks about capitalism and their employees and their community.
No, it's my big concern because small and medium-sized companies have been much more hit by the crisis compared to large companies, or most large companies. So I'm very pleased, and I think it's a task of society to take care, because they are an essential part of our economic tissue. So we have to make sure that it's not their fault, that they can survive the crisis, because we need, at the end of the crisis, we need still a prospering middle class in as far as companies are concerned.